Hello, this is Dr. Kamani, licensed clinical psychologist. Thank you for tuning in. You are here for This Job is Trying to Make Me Go Crazy, and this is for Black women and toxic jobs. So when I say crazy, I'm a licensed clinical psychologist, so we know that that's not the correct term, but we're just using a common term that many of us can relate to. And we know that feeling when you feel like you're like in a DMX video, like you're about to lose it up in the place. So that's what we're referring to. So again, we're not making light of mental illness or anything like that. We're talking about experiences in which you're in a workplace and it's so stressful, so toxic that it kind of makes you become a different person in some way. So that's a telltale sign that that's not a good environment for you. So we're going to get started into the discussion, but I do want to say again, so this is for Black women in toxic jobs. If you are not a Black woman, you are welcome to watch this video. But again, this is for Black women who are starting to think this is not quite right, what's going on at the job, and they are really looking to pivot and leave. Okay, so I'm going to hand it over to my guest, and we are in the same coaching program with Rachel Rogers. So we are in the Hello 7 Coach Certification Program. And so I'm excited that my Schmilly is here. My sister Schmilly is here. So Laurel, if you could introduce yourself and we'll go right into the conversation.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me on, Dr. Kamani, and welcome, audience. My name is Laurel Rutledge. I am your Chief Navigation Officer, helping seven-figure businesswomen move from founder to CEO. And I left a nearly 30-year career in corporate in the end of 2017. God, it feels like yesterday, the end of
Wow.
2017, and just decided it was time for me to serve bigger and I could serve better and I could have less constraint and less madness and less drama outside of the corporate space. And so I am so
Mm,
excited to have this conversation because it is important. It is
yes.
important, period. And
Yes.
it's important to know that, you don't have to stay. And if you choose to stay, you can choose how you want to show up and how you want that place to serve you, not just you serve
Mm,
it. So I'm really
yeah.
excited for this conversation.
Yeah. And Laura, I think it's also powerful that we are both toxic job survivors so that Black women can see that if you choose to leave a job, that you have
Yeah.
options and you can do well, not to feel like you have to stay and be stuck someplace that's
Yes.
harming you, right?
Yes.
So, Laurel, if we could just talk a little bit about the work experience that we're referencing, right? And I know that as
Yeah.
Black women, many times we have more than one toxic work experience. So we're going to focus on the one where
Yeah.
it just felt like the things were just so ridiculous and so crazy making that it just really just took a toll on you. So can you share with the
Yeah.
audience a little bit about the work that you were doing and what were some of the ridiculous things that happened? And the reason that I want you to do that too, Laurel, is that I want Black women to see that many times when you leave a job, it's a progression. So it's not
Mhm.
generally like one day you wake up and you're like, I'm out of here, even though you want to. It's generally a
Yeah.
progression. So I would
Yeah.
love for the audience to hear about your progression as well.
Sure. And as you said, there were many, right? There were many toxic situations in my career. And so I'll just talk about the last one just because it's most recent. Um, and it's not better, it's not worse, it's just most recent. And it did start out like there's that old saying of boiling frogs, right? Like you put with the way you boil a frog, the frog is in regular water, and then you just
Mm-hmm.
slowly turn up the heat until the frog doesn't
Mm.
realize it's too hot, right? And it's too late to
Ooh,
jump out, right? It's a boiled frog. And that's
now that's
often
the
what
image.
happens. Yes, it's often what happens is that we see little things like death by a thousand cuts, right? Little things start to
Yes.
happen, and because of who we are and many times how we've been raised, the rhetoric and the narrative that we've assumed, we just start thinking, okay, well, it'll be okay, or maybe it was just me, maybe I did misunderstand it, maybe
Mm-hmm.
I could have done something different. And it's not that
Mm-hmm.
you're necessarily feeling incompetent or not confident. It is
Mm-hmm.
that hyper awareness of,
Mm-hmm.
let me just make sure that I got my ducks in a row, that it wasn't me,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Yeah.
what you don't realize, or at least what I didn't realize, is that it was happening so often, so consistently, and so broadly that there were periods of time when I really thought, have I really lost the ability to communicate? Because I know I didn't say that. And I know I
Ah,
didn't act that way. I know I must be losing my mind if that happened. And it finally hit me that no, it wasn't you. And so for me, just to make a long story short, the way the progression happened is I started out. So my career is really crazy, right? I've got an undergrad in accounting. Got an MBA in operations international business. I've done consulting with one of the big professional services firms. I've been in internal audit. I've done risk management. I've done some of everything, and I ended my career as a senior executive, head of global strategy and analytics for HR, right, for a huge chemical company. And where it started, I started out at one of the plant locations, which was great. And I love manufacturing. I love plants. And
hmm,
it had its own set of issues and we had some
mm-hmm.
egos. And, it was a company that had an average tenure of 27 years. There's a lot of stuff
Wow.
that they hadn't seen and
Mm,
a lot of stuff that they hadn't done. And
mm-hmm,
because it was a very heavy technical company, that 27 years of having that institutional knowledge is great. It's
mm-hmm,
actually a real selling point. It is a real game changer for them.
mm-hmm.
And that 27 years means that folks haven't seen anything else. They haven't broadened their horizons. They have, right. So there's two sides of that coin. So I started out in that
Yeah.
plant, loved my team, was doing great stuff. An opportunity came up because someone was leaving
Mm-hmm,
to become the VP. Now, at that point, I was like, I don't know of this particular business. I don't know. And then I was talking to some other people like, why are you not applying for this job? You absolutely need to do it. And I thought, okay, but I'm not moving, right? Because the headquarters were outside of Texas. I'm not moving.
okay. Okay.
And I decided, but I applied for the job and I was just very honest. And I said, I would love to have this job. I'd love to be considered. And I'm not moving. I'm willing to travel 50%,
Mm-hmm,
but
mm-hmm,
understand I am okay if that cuts me out as a candidate. And the
mm-hmm.
lesson in that is you got to know what you're willing to tolerate. Right. And I
Yes.
knew I wasn't
True.
moving again. So I
Yes.
was okay with the consequences of that decision.
Mm-hmm.
So, long story short, I ended up getting the job. Things were
Oh,
okay at first,
mm-hmm.
right? We're a big
Okay.
company,
Okay.
carved out. It was okay at first.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
But then even through some of that, it was like we would say things, talk about pieces of our business, and it would be blown off. And it was because our piece of the business was kind of like the chemical side. They didn't want to think about us because they had the pharmaceutical side that was bigger, right? So you little
Mm-hmm.
chemical people, don't worry about that, right? We carved out, we were writing notes to, and when I say carve out, for those of you in corporate who maybe haven't done that before, really, we were divesting of this piece of the business that I was in. So it was being separated or sold off from the bigger company. And in doing that, we were having to move people around. Some got to stay with the old company, right? The parent company, and some were moving with us. And this was a company that was 150 years old. So
Mm-hmm.
generations had worked in this company. So
Mm-hmm.
dealing with lots of emotion of people who don't necessarily get to stay with
Mm-hmm.
where their whole heart is tied in. And
Yeah.
so this started when we were writing these notes to people about, hey, look, here's what's going to happen. We are going to keep everything the same for at least a year. So don't worry about your pay. Don't worry about benefits. Don't worry about any of that stuff. We are not changing anything for a year. That was what we were telling people because we knew our people.
Mm-hmm.
The folks that I was working with were like, nope, we're not saying that. We just need to say, y'all just trust us. And I was like,
What? And it's
we're
their
not
job.
saying that. We're
Right.
not saying that. I was like, have you
Yeah.
looked at the engagement surveys? Because we have. And the engagement surveys say they don't trust management. So we're going to say in a letter to people, just trust us, it'll be fine. No, we're not doing
Right.
that. So
About your
went to bat
livelihood.
there. Not doing that,
Mm-hmm.
right? Went to bat
Yeah.
there. Then we carved out and then we started building everything up. So again, we had to, at least in my department, I had to build everything, right? So I had business
Mm-hmm.
partners. I had to build an entire HR department. And then
Mm-hmm.
other places had to build. So the business was fine, but all the back office, finance, supply chain, all of those kind of things we had to rebuild and carve out. And every single meeting was everything's going to be fine, but I don't know about HR. Everything's going to be fine, but HR is going to screw it up. The one that we're going to be really concerned about is HR. I mean, every single meeting, there was something about HR was going to be the problem. HR was going to be the mess. HR was going to be, I mean, over and over and over. Now, these were the same people, right, who I pulled many fannies out of the fire, let's say,
Mm-hmm.
avoided many
Mm-hmm.
lawsuits, right, got many
Oh.
things across the line. These were the same people who are saying, oh, this is the thing that's going to screw it all up. It didn't, by the way. But that was the
Mm-hmm.
first cut, right? You
Mm-hmm.
don't know what you're doing. And finally it came to a head where I was like, you know what? I'm done. No, no, no. I'm so sorry. I understand that I've been, it's not that I don't trust you. I'm like, well, it is clear that you don't think I know what I'm doing. And just because you
Right.
haven't seen it
And you're saying this
doesn't mean
publicly.
it's not
You're saying
possible.
this, you said this in meetings, right? This is not going to
Yes.
work. It's not going to work. Okay.
You've
Mm-hmm.
you've publicly said the thing that's going to
Yeah.
mess up this whole thing is HR, and I'm leading
Wow.
HR. What else is
Right.
what you know? So that was the first
What's the
thing.
message
We got all
there?
carved out. Everything went swimmingly. I met all of my goals. Get
Mm-hmm.
to the performance review process. Now I'm the HR person. I'm used to being the CEO, the HR, the legal person. That's your trifecta, right? You're always talking to each other. You have to.
Mm-hmm.
And I get into my performance review. Well, I talked to a couple of your colleagues and this is what they thought. And I'm like, but you didn't talk to me. And you didn't talk to me about them as the HR person who knows what's going on in their organizations because people are talking to me. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But the conversation was, but I told them that no, you did everything, you met all your right. So it's that kind of I'm gonna
Like we're
slam you, but
covering
then
for
I'm gonna be the
you.
hero.
We're covering for you because you're not quite carrying the
You're
weight.
not
So
quite
we're
there.
covering for you. Yeah. You should be
Yeah. Yeah.
grateful. Yeah.
You're not
Mm-hmm.
quite
Mm-hmm.
there.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and so that's how it started. And then we got into a meeting once and it was like we were trying to do a new thing.
Mm-hmm.
I was standing in front of standing in front of a team of executives, and I could get 2 words out. And then they were just like, and it wasn't just questions. It was, we can't do this. And I can't believe you're saying that. And we're not. And finally, I literally put my hands up and I just said, stop. I screamed. I just said, stop.
Oh, wait, they're attacking you? Like as you're
Yes. Oh,
talking, they're
yes.
like talking over you?
Oh, yeah, talking over me.
Wow.
You can't do that. That doesn't make any sense. And I finally just put up my hands and said, stop. We're not having this conversation anymore. You're not going to have me standing up here trying to tell you what we're going to do, yelling and
Mm-hmm.
screaming at me. I'm done. When you guys are ready to talk about this like grown people and treat me like the adult and
Mm-hmm.
the expert that I am, then we can revisit this conversation or not. Because
Mm-hmm.
see, it's no skin off my nose whether we do this or whether we not. We are trying to do something that you guys said you wanted to do. I'm telling you how we need to do it so we can be
Mm-hmm.
compliant and it will be good for the people. But it's no skin off my nose if we don't want to do it at all. Done.
Mm-hmm.
And I sat down.
Mm-hmm.
Shock. Right. Oh my God. Right. So then we go into a year end that was all about, we're gonna give feedback to each other. We're going to, be a team. This was an all-day meeting. I didn't say a word. Didn't say a word. All day. Didn't say a word. The very end, they came to the CFO, who hadn't said a word all meeting. What do you think? What do we need to do? And I don't even know what he said. And then at the end, they said, well, Laurel, what kind of commentary or anything do you have? And I said, all help is not helpful.
Mm-hmm.
And that was it. I didn't say anything else. I said, all help
Mm-hmm.
is not helpful because it
Boom.
was like, we need
Uh-huh.
to help HR. We need to support. No, you don't. No, you don't. All help is not helpful. And I said, and I will
Right.
not be seeing you guys at dinner tonight. And I packed and I went to my hotel. And my phone was blowing up. Right? Are you okay? Everybody's worried about you. What? I am just fine.
Really? As you were
I'm just
screaming
fine.
at me, cutting me off, undermining without my professionalism, everything,
Yeah,
but you're worried about me. Okay.
but you're worried.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Yeah.
like, no, I'm fine. And so
Mm-hmm.
it just kind of escalated from there, right? And not only was
Yeah.
I fighting there, I was fighting the global head because I had 2 bosses. I had a US boss and a global boss.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was fighting the global company. My global boss was great, but I was fighting the global company, the global processes. I was fighting at home. I was in between for stuff. And finally, I just said, you know what? I'm done. And I had been home for December for Christmas in 2016. And I looked around at my family and I thought, I'm so tired. I just want to be home. And these are people I love and who love me. And I thought,
Mm-hmm.
I can't do this. And I said, this is not okay. For me to be feeling this upset is not okay. I said, I'm done. And I went in February, walked into my international boss's office and said, we're sitting down to get our goals for the next year. And I said, before we start, I just want you to know that I'm resigning. You have until May because we were doing a big project.
Wow.
I'm like, that's my karma, not theirs, right? I'm not trying to blow it up. I just can't stay.
Right.
Shock, awe, tears. I mean, all the things
No, no.
on their
Laurel,
part.
did you say tears?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
You
Okay.
can't leave. What can we do? Yeah, you can do absolutely nothing. Because see, if you'd been paying
But
attention,
before you were saying my whole department's gonna mess things up. But now you don't want me to leave. Uh-huh. Okay.
is it me? Is it?
Oh my God.
Yes, it is. It is you. It is you. And
Wow.
I'm leaving. And I wasn't screaming. I wasn't yelling. I was just
Mm-hmm.
done.
Yeah.
And And I told them, you've got until May. And then there was all
Mhm.
kinds of stuff with an attorney that was just toxic, is still there, just toxic. And I told them, I said, I'm not signing this because see, I know what we did for other people. I'm not signing this. Because see, I'm
Mm.
ready to go. So if y'all are the ones wanting me to stay longer, if you want me to stay, here's what is going to be required to have me stay. I'm not staying forever, but you can extend my departure date for the things
Oh,
that are on this list.
okay.
And it was not insane because again, that's my karma, right? I got to go to
Mhm.
sleep at night. But I also
Mhm.
knew what we'd done for other people and I was not unreasonable. And I ended up staying actually through the end of the year, but that was my seed money for my business, right?
So, oh,
Um
that's awesome. Wait, so you
yep,
were able to negotiate
yep,
more money by staying
yes,
longer as you transitioned out?
yep.
Brilliant. And then use that
And
money to create your own business.
I did. And here's the
Brilliant.
thing. I had a really good friend of mine who's there, who's still a dear friend of mine today, who is amazing. And she's like, and when I told her I was leaving, I said, and you're my successor. She's like, because see, I like working for you. I like my job now. She's like, just stay. You don't even have to do any of the work. I'll do all the work. Just stay. I'm like, I'm not staying. I'm not staying. And you're my
Wow.
successor. So, you're good. You'll be fine. You the right person, right time, right? I just can't leave. And I remember her sitting me down one time and she said, girl, you're not leaving any money on the table. We're not doing that. Mm-mm. We're not doing that. So we're
Mm.
going to make this happen. And we're going to make sure that you are taken care of because you have given too much and done too much.
Yeah.
So no,
Yeah.
ma'am. So having that advocate for you, even when you're ready to go. And like I said, I didn't blow it up. I didn't burn the place down when I walked out.
Mhm.
None of that, because that wasn't
Right.
necessary. I
Right.
was clear in my
Yeah.
willingness to just walk away
Mhm.
because no one
Mhm.
does that. You can't, are
Yeah.
you kidding? You can't leave. What do you
Right.
mean?
Right.
But I
And
can.
you know what's so interesting, Laurel, is that when you think about the experiences of us as Black women, that,
Yeah.
you were brought in, I'm thinking about Pet to Threat, right? You were brought in,
Yep.
Laurel's so great. Oh my God, we love Laurel, right?
Yep.
And then boom, and they just shifted on you, right? And trying to just
Yes.
undermine you. So, and also thinking about the crying, the tears. So, in many ways, how we are then expected to then coddle them and
Yeah.
make them feel better. But you're like, no. And the other thing is that even though those situations were infuriating,
Yeah.
you were so calm, it countered that stereotype of the angry Black woman. So you
Yes.
are like, no, I'm just going to be quiet and I'm going to express and I'm out of here. I'm not going to
Yeah.
be a part of this situation that's hurting me. And you said
Right.
that you were at a family, you were with your family, and you
Yes.
said it was upsetting you too much. What did that
Yeah.
look like? So what was it like for you when you were there with them?
It's very interesting. I have found that and it's one of the things I use in my business, right? I always tell my clients, you need to know what grounds you. There's a reason I have a tree in my logo, right? You need to know what your root system is. And for me, that's faith, family, friends, and health, right? And health is big
Mm-hmm.
health, physical, emotional, financial, right? All of the things.
Mm-hmm.
And what I recognized is even though I would spend time with my family, I wasn't as present as I wanted to be. And I had a couple of cousins tell me that one time, right? That you're here, but it doesn't seem like you're present. I wasn't as
Mm-hmm.
present. Things would irritate me really quickly, right? And I'm already introverted. So I need like the beginning of the mornings, even when I'm with family or with people that I love, I need the mornings to be just quiet and still and just me so I can get myself ready, my energy ready before I'm
Mm-hmm.
around people. And I just found myself just irritated by being in space with other people. It wasn't them, it was me.
Oh,
I was just and I looked at them and I thought, but I love these people. Like I want to be here all the
yeah.
time. I want to be with them all the
Yeah.
time. We're laughing, we're having fun. We are and I was my mind was split and I could just feel it, right? I could just feel
Yeah.
that I wasn't as present as I wanted to be. I wasn't feeling the way I wanted to feel. I was too irritated too quickly about stupid stuff. And
Mm.
that just wasn't life is too short. Life is too
Yeah.
short. And to have given everything that I gave to people that don't mean nothing to me and to
Mm.
not be giving everything to people who do was
Yes. The people
absolutely
you love, right?
unacceptable. Yes.
Yes.
And who love
Yes. And
me.
yes, and when we think about these toxic jobs, they suck so much out of us. So just think about the mental energy, the preparation,
Yeah.
still thinking about it when you're not at the job, that it takes away from
Yes.
those we care about. So those we
Yes.
care about are impacted negatively too. And
Mhm.
so, Laurel, can you share, because you talked about the agitation, you felt like you were distracted. What were
Yep.
some other symptoms that you were having in relation to the experiences at this job? What else was happening?
So I didn't sleep on a Sunday night for 5 years. 5 years. I didn't sleep on a
What?
Sunday night for 5 years.
Wow.
I gained at least 60 pounds.
Oh my
Wound up,
goodness.
yep, wound up with type 2. Um, I had lots of stress headaches, and I'm not a person that gets headaches at all. Lots of
Mm-hmm.
headaches.
Mm-hmm.
I'd get like heart palpitations. I mean, it was all the things, all of
Oh
the
my
things, all the
God.
anxiety, all the depression, all the things. Um,
Yeah.
and it literally took a physical and emotional hold on me. And I am a person
Wow.
who, my mom was a nurse, excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
My mom is a nurse, and so we grew up with paying attention, right, to our health.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I've always been someone that paid attention to how I was feeling and have no
Mm-hmm.
problem going to a doctor and saying something ain't right.
Right.
And I recognize that this is not okay. I am not
Yeah.
feeling good. I'm not sleeping. I just knew it just wasn't, and I wasn't having time to do something about it because this 50% travel that I'd agreed to
Mm-hmm.
turned into 80. And
What?
it was both domestic and international. So we're talking about,
Wow.
8-hour flights and
You had no life,
time changes
basically.
and, and
Mm-hmm.
food when you're traveling and
Mm.
all the things, all the
Yeah.
things. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
awful.
Yeah. And so you talked about, I'm just thinking about the analogy you talked about with the frogs,
Yeah.
right? So
Mhm.
for you, it's like things started kind of upping up. And so you started noticing these signs about what was happening. But how
Mhm.
did it get to a point where I think when we're in the middle of it, we don't see it,
Mhm.
right? Like we know
Mhm.
something's off, but we don't see the full picture.
Mhm.
So what needed to happen for you to be able to see the full picture? Like, this is not good. Was
Yeah.
it when you went for Christmas? Like what was that?
There were a couple of things that happened. So that was the kind of the last straw for me. Was that
Okay.
Christmas of 2016? That was the last straw. But
Okay.
leading up into that, there had been a few things that had happened. I got a call in Germany. I got a call from another executive saying, we just got called out by the global board of directors because we didn't respond to this internal audit on this date that we'd said, and it said the US wasn't doing anything. And I was like, okay, so all of that's not true. And by the way, you who are calling me sit on the comp committee. You know what we did and you know why we did it. And and so I went back and dug up emails and sent them to people. And they were like, "Oh, yeah. Well, we still need to make sure we're meeting all deadlines." So in this instance, we had made an agreement to do something by a certain date.
Mm-hmm.
We had an issue come up and decided to have an external audit to ensure that everything was accurate. Our entire comp committee agreed to it. The international audit committee agreed to the change and the date.
Mm-hmm.
I had it in
Mm-hmm.
writing, right? Agreed to all the changes. They didn't change in the system because heaven forbid you change a date in the system, even if after acquired information says you need to change it. Can't change a date. It's just
Mm-hmm.
asinine stuff. So that
Mm-hmm.
happened. And I had to go back and say, no, 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 this is not true. And here's the data. Oh, then it was kind of like, oh, well, but we just need to make sure we're meeting dates. Okay, no. I had another one where we'd agreed on what we were going to do for a United Way thing.
Mm-hmm.
We were going to give these things away, but we weren't going to do these things. We called some people in from the organization to do a presentation. They wanted the thing that the executives had said they weren't going to do. But see, now they're sitting in front of their people. So they don't have the courage anymore to say,
Mm-hmm.
no, 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 we as a team agreed we weren't going to do that. It was don't literally, don't worry about HR. Her opinion doesn't matter.
No way, Laurel, no. Wow. You talk
And in
about
front of
discount and
people.
throw you under the bus.
And so you already, as
Woo.
HR, you already have this issue with people already think you're the police. And let me tell you, probably as an HR person, but as a business person first and an HR person
Mm-hmm.
second, I will agree that there are many people in HR who don't need to be in HR. And there are many
Mm.
HR departments that truly don't understand the balance of business and people because it is mission
Mm.
first, people always. If you don't take care of the business, nobody's got a job. So everybody needs to get out of their
True.
feelings. They have to take care of the business because they don't take care of
Mm-hmm.
the business. None of y'all have a job. That's number
Mm-hmm.
one. But number two, good HR people are holding those executives accountable to what they say and how they act. And you
Mm,
may not see it. Just because you don't see it doesn't mean it's not happening. Because I
mm,
cannot tell you how many heated, ugly, nasty conversations I had behind the scenes to keep something
mm.
from happening to people. So don't
Laura,
assume.
can I say something? I think
Yeah.
that you are a rarity because the
Yeah.
vast majority of people that I've interviewed, I know for
Mhm.
me, that
Yeah.
was not the experience
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah.
HR colluded with the workplace bullies, protected the workplace bullies, the
Mhm.
workplace bullies were promoted. So when you
Yeah.
said, that just stuck out to me. When you said some people should not be in HR, who are those
Yeah.
people? Because I hope
So
if they're watching, they can reflect.
yes.
Who are those
Yes.
people?
So I tell people all the time, if you don't have courage and you can't speak truth to power, I need you to get the hell up out of HR. And I've said it on my
Ooh.
show. I've said it publicly. I need you to get out of
Ooh.
HR because you need to be able to speak up and speak the truth,
Mm,
right? You need to be able
mm,
to stand up. When the company says they want this and
mhm,
they
mhm,
do this, you need to point
mm.
that out. Because,
Ah,
and I tell them all the time, I'm like, I don't care what it is you want.
yeah,
But people will listen to what you say, but they'll believe what you do. And if you do something that's contrary to what you say you want and what you're telling people, we're going to call that out. So decide what you want,
yes,
whatever that is, and then act
yes,
accordingly. And so most
yes.
HR people do not have the courage to stand up. Or like people would come interview for me and they're like, I want to be in HR because I love people. Well, you can't work for me. Because see, I don't love people. I'm one of those rare people. I don't love people. I respect people, I understand people, and I have compassion for people. And I understand that you can't get anything done without people. I
Mhm,
also know that leadership is about behavior, not about position, because you're getting things done
mm,
with, through, and by others. That's what leadership
mhm,
is, right? And
mhm,
so,
mhm,
HR people who don't understand those fundamentals, who aren't able to have the courage to speak up
mhm,
when things
mhm.
are done wrong, when they are mistreating people. If you can't do that, I need you to go do something else. You need to just get out of the
Oh,
profession. Just go.
oh,
Just go.
wow, wow. See that
Because I
part.
yeah, because I have the ability to go tell people, no, 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 that's not true. That is not what the company's doing. That is not what the company said. That is not true. But I could stand on that and stand on my record because on the other side, I was saying, company, we're not doing that to that person. We're not going to
Hmm.
do that. Right. So people saw me standing up for both. We're going to stand up for the people. We're also going to
Hmm.
stand up for the company because if the company goes away, we all gone.
Right,
But I also
right,
can have you operating and acting crazy and then expecting the
right.
company to just roll over for that. We're not doing any of that. We're not doing any
Wow.
of that.
So you
Both
know what?
sides
I'm
have
gonna
to act right.
Yeah. And when you were talking, it reminded me of James Baldwin's quote, right? I can't believe what you say because I see what you
Yes.
do. So
Yes.
why don't organizations get this? Why don't they understand that when you treat your employees like garbage, but you say you believe in them and you pour in them as a family environment, when you tell them that, but they are treated in a very disrespectful way,
Mhm.
why don't they see that that undermines the effectiveness of the organization and undermines their ability to make money and survive? Why don't organizations? I'm just like, it
Right.
doesn't make sense to me. Why do you think they don't get that?
Because organizations are made of people
Oh,
and organizations are years away, right? We've moved generations away from being about stakeholders and being about shareholders. And when you're focused on shareholders, it doesn't matter what you do to people as long as the stock price is okay. So when
oh,
you stop
wow.
thinking of everyone as a stakeholder, right? Your employees,
Yeah.
your customers, right? Your
Yes.
clients, your executives, whoever, right? Your partners. When you started thinking of stopped thinking of all your stakeholders and only focused on your shareholders, that's when it became all about ego. It became all about what's going to
Mm,
move the needle on the share price. It became what's going to get in the newspaper. Who can we pay to get on the best of list? Because don't get it twisted.
wow.
People pay to get on a lot of those lists.
Wow.
And depending on which list it
Okay.
is, they're
Yes.
talking to select people to get on the list. So don't
Yes.
just
It's all
be
rigged.
mindful. Be
Yeah.
mindful.
Yeah, yeah. So, Laurel, what would you say, in relation to, because when I talk to Black women,
Mhm.
their main, like they could hate their job, just like you talked about, you said
Yeah.
not being able to sleep for years on a
Yeah.
Sunday. Now,
Yeah.
I remember that's why I started having these videos 5 o'clock on Sunday, because that used to be the worst day of the week for me, because I
Yeah.
knew on Monday I had to go right back to that toxic place. So I was like, okay, let me provide some healing to people on
Yeah.
Sundays. So, Laurel, what would you say? Because Black women are like, I hate my job. I dread it. I'm crying on my way to work. I'm crying leaving. It takes up my whole life, but I'm scared. I'm
Yeah.
scared to leave because I need a job. I need to make money. How did you walk through that fear? Because you got to a point you're like, no. Now you were able to negotiate and get some more money,
Yeah.
but how did you, or was there any fear involved and making that decision? Did you experience any fear, and how did you walk through that if you did?
This is so first let me say it's one, it's a personal decision.
Mm-hmm.
The second thing is I encourage you to be really, really self-aware. Because as I tell people now, don't hurt you because you're mad at them. Just because
Mm,
you're mad, just because they hurt your feelings, don't walk away. That's going to put you in a bad situation just because you want to hurt them. If that's where your
mm,
headspace is, it's
mm,
not time for you to go yet.
mm,
Make a plan. Make a plan.
mm,
Now, if
mm,
you are unsafe, right? If you are
mm.
unsafe, get out and figure it out later.
Yeah,
Because
immediately.
you were looking for a job when you found that one, right? You'll
Yes,
find something. If you are
yes,
unsafe, get out. If you're
yes,
not unsafe, if you're just mad, if you're just uncomfortable, if you are just stressed out, you're not sleeping 5 years on a Sunday, you need to pause. Be really
yes.
self-aware and make a plan. Proper prior planning prevents poor performance. Make a
Mm,
plan and then execute on that plan. And you'll know when it's time when you're calm. Again, when I went in and said I was done, I wasn't screaming, I wasn't yelling, none of that, right? I was
mm-hmm.
just done. And I
Yeah,
was so done that I was ready to just walk away. I meant that.
yes,
I
yes,
meant that,
yes,
right? And
yes.
so anything that came out of that, and I was prepared, not only was I prepared to walk away, but I was giving them everything. I didn't like retire in place and just sit back with my feet up for those last 6 weeks because see that's about me and my karma,
Mm,
right? So
mm-hmm,
I was in it every day that I was there, I was
mm,
performing, I was going to meetings, I was turning stuff over, I was making presentations, I was making sure that I was going to do everything I could do so that it
yeah,
didn't fall apart when I left, right? Because that's on me.
yeah,
That's not on them.
yeah. That's your
And
work
so
ethic, right? And
it's my work
integrity.
ethic.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. And so
Mm-hmm,
you've got to be ready and clear about why you're leaving, number one,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
and then
mm-hmm,
a plan to do so in a way that is of most benefit to you, with your
mm-hmm.
safety being at the top of that list. And
Mm.
then you've got to be prepared for whatever's on the other side.
Okay. Can we talk about safety a little bit?
Yeah.
Because I have heard as well, and also
Mhm.
Marissa Price is in the audience. She did a
Hi,
really, really good
Marissa.
video talking about, no job is worth your life. Because
Yes.
I have heard Black women talk about experiencing thoughts of hurting themselves or
Yeah.
dying because of a
Yes.
job. So can you talk a little bit more in terms of um, how it is that we need to prioritize our safety? What does that look like? So like how would a Black woman know that like you need to leave immediately? Like how would she
Right.
know that? What would be the signs?
Right. That's a really good question. So I'll first put a caveat to say you got to know you,
Yes,
because
true.
everybody's tolerance is a little bit different, right? So you
Yes.
got to know you. The first caveat is if someone is really harassing, if they're touching you, if they're hitting you, if they're doing that kind of stuff, one, you need to report it, and two, you need to get out and file the
Mm-hmm.
suit, right? Just be
Mm-hmm.
strong, figure that out, file the suit. So
Mm-hmm.
true physical, emotional, psychological safety, that extreme end, you need to go.
Mm-hmm.
You will figure the
Mm-hmm.
rest of it out.
Mm-hmm.
Beyond that, it is really um that deep awareness of what am I saying to myself? I said earlier, I was like, is it me? I know. Did I lose my ability to communicate? Because I've always been a great
Yes.
communicator. And when I'm starting to
Yes.
question, wait, what did I say? How did I say that? Realizing I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't sleeping on a Sunday, the heart
Mm.
palpitations, you've got to be very, very self aware because your body will tell you when it's
Yeah.
time to
And
go.
don't lie to yourself about what's
Don't
happening to
lie.
you. Mm-hmm.
Don't lie,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
seek counsel, right? Seek
Yeah.
counsel from, people inside, and be careful who you have inside, right? So these women that I had inside this organization are still dear friends of mine today, right? And they were
Mm.
the ones that I could truly confide in. You can't confide in everybody, but
No,
these
you
were like
cannot.
ride or die. Ride or die. That's
Mm.
who they are.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
find that one person, right? That two people. Find
Mm.
your person outside of the organization, right?
Mhm.
That you can bounce things off of that are going to be honest enough with you to say, yeah, that's you. Right?
Yeah.
Baby,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
you. I need you to work on that. Or, oh,
Yeah.
no, 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 let's make a plan, right? So,
Yes.
so find those people that tell you, but the first thing is, if it's true safety, get out. If it's less
Yeah.
than that, know you and be really, really clear on who you are. So when something doesn't feel right, you
Yeah.
pause and say,
Yeah.
what is that? Is that just I'm uncomfortable because it's stretching me, right? Or it's
Hmm.
not something I know and I'm
Hmm.
sitting in imposter syndrome, or is
Hmm.
"No, this is not right. This is
Yeah.
not right."
Yeah.
And only you can know that, right? Each
Yeah.
individual has to do that for themselves
Yeah.
and be willing to get help. I've had my therapist for 13 years. 13 years.
Hmm.
I love her.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
it has morphed, right? So I've had people say, "Oh, you should never be in therapy that long. What's wrong with you?" Number 1, don't be judgy. Number
Exactly. It's
2,
none of your business.
right? Relationships change over time, and it's one of the reasons I
Hmm.
talk about therapy a lot because we don't do that in the Black community.
No,
Go
we don't.
find somebody,
Hmm.
get some help that is outside of you. Have a strong circle. My village is amazing,
Hmm.
and you don't wanna burden folks that are that tight with you all the time with your stuff, and sometimes you
And
need a
they're not
professional.
objective. They're not
Yes,
objective, right?
they're
So when
not.
we keep telling people like they might have our best interest in heart, and the good thing about it is that our circle of people can
Yes.
reality test with us. So
Yes.
all that gaslighting that's happening at the job, you can start internalizing that. I know Marissa Price did a video about that. We also did one together on my channel.
Mhm.
That stuff can get in
Mhm.
your head. That can mess you up
Yeah.
because you're like, did
Yes.
I say that? What? Am I right? So you think you're going
Yes.
crazy or something. So
Yes.
you need people who can reality test with you. That's the one thing. The
Yeah.
other thing is absolutely for therapy because,
Yeah.
and I would say for most Black women, we want a Black woman therapist and
Mhm.
that we
Mhm.
are out here. I'm a therapist.
Mhm.
We are
Mhm.
out here. So I'll
Yeah.
put information in the description section about how to find a Black therapist and how to find free
Yes.
Black therapy for Black
Mhm.
women. So
Yes.
all of these things are important. And it's
Yeah.
interesting, Laurel, is that I think we have a little different perspective
Yeah.
about confiding in people at the job
Yes.
because I've been burned so much
Yes.
that
Mhm.
I'm like, I tell people, don't do it, don't do it, don't do
Yeah.
it. But it's good to hear the other
Yeah.
side too, right? Because I want people to decide for themselves, number one.
Yes.
The other thing is something that I also say to Black women too about pause.
Mhm.
Because we as Black women, we are doing it. Like we're out here,
Yeah.
we're like getting education, we're taking care of this, we're doing all these things. But when we are so busy that we don't rest, that's a trauma
Yeah.
response. And I
Yes.
always say, pause. Because when you pause and you sit with yourself, you cannot lie to yourself. Your
Yeah.
body is not going to lie to you. Your
Yep.
psyche is not going to lie to you. So we need to pay attention to that. Now, Laura, you
Yes.
said something that really triggered something for me, and I want to ask you about it. 'Cause I know we talk about it in our coaching program.
Yeah.
It's the imposter syndrome.
Mhm.
And how does that look maybe different for Black women? Because
Mhm.
you talked about as you came into that environment, very confident, you know what you're
Right.
working with. I think a lot of Black women, as we come into these work environments, we are overqualified many
Right.
times. We have
Right.
all these different skills, right? So we don't come in generally with a sense
Yeah.
of insecurity like the classic imposter syndrome.
Right.
But what happens is that the environment starts poking holes at us and trying to undermine us and put us in our
Mhm.
place, and all these other things that
Yeah.
causes us to question ourselves. But I don't think we come in with feeling
Right.
like we're an imposter. So what are your
Right.
thoughts about that?
I think everything you said is exactly right. I think, when I look back over my career and how I moved in the different places I worked, especially if you work in a professional services firm, right? All you have in professional services firms is what's in your head. Every once in a while they have a
Mm,
product or something, but what you're really selling is what's in your head. And so you
mm,
have to have a level of ego,
mm-hmm,
small e ego, not
mm-hmm,
capitalize e
mm-hmm.
ego. You have
Right.
to have a level of ego that allows you to be very confident in what you know and how you can deliver and how
Mm-hmm,
you absorb things and how you
mm-hmm.
deliver things, right? Because everything you sell is about you.
Yes.
And so there's a level of confidence that you have having gone through that. And
Mm-hmm,
what I recognized is, if you tie it all together, is that ability to be really self-aware when things start feeling weird. So if you're in corporate America, and even if you move across organizations, organizations are like, we want fresh ideas, we want new people. But then you get in and they're like, yeah, but that's not how we do it that way. Yep, we never seen
right.
it before. We never.
Right.
And so what happens is you instead of remembering, even if you tell them, I don't know how many times I said, my career didn't start when I crossed this threshold, right? You getting
Mm,
20 years when I got here, not one, 20
mhm,
coming in.
mhm,
Even though we know that, and we may even say it out loud, depending on what type of leader you are and how invested you get in an organization and in your people in the
mhm,
organization, while you know it not to be true, when
mhm,
something is said often enough, we don't realize how words stick and
mhm.
how
It's
sentiments
toxic, right?
stick.
So
It's
toxic
toxic.
poison comes through our pores. Yes.
Yes, it
Yes,
does,
we're
and
affected.
you
Mhm.
begin to question, "Did I really see that? Have I really known that?
Yep,
Am I really?"
yep,
And it sneaks, it truly does sneak up on you, and
yep,
so I cannot stress enough the criticality of self-awareness, not even
yes,
self-confidence, but self-awareness. Because if you are really
yes.
self-aware who you are, right? And where you are, know what
Mhm,
organization you're in, the good, the bad, and the
mhm,
ugly, then you can make an intentional decision and an
mhm,
intentional evaluation of, is this
mhm,
me or is this them?
mhm.
Or
Yes,
is this just, it is both of us and it just doesn't work? And so no harm, no foul. I just can't
right,
stay here. Right.
right,
So
right.
it's really that, for me, the imposter syndrome sneaks up on you because we get we get committed, man. We get
Ooh,
committed. We
yes,
are
yes.
all in. We're
All
gonna make it
in.
work. We're gonna work the
Yes.
extra hours. We're gonna, and it
We can
happens
we can do
because it's
other people's
habit.
jobs on top of our job and do it very well. Yes.
And we're
Mhm.
always the cleanup woman.
Yes. Yes.
Always.
Heavy
All that
lifting. We
stuff
right
that they
there.
couldn't fix for 20
Mhm.
years
Right.
gets to us, and then all of a sudden, what's the problem? Why is it still
Right.
bad? How can we get?
Right.
But
Yeah.
I've been here 2 minutes. You had it 20 years, right? But
Right.
we own that because
Yeah.
we got to fix it, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
self-awareness and not allowing someone else's, which is, and this sounds really easy to say, but it is hard to
Mhm.
do, not
Mhm.
allowing someone else's vision or perspective of you to
Mhm.
change your perspective of yourself. It
Yes.
is simply information, right? It is
Yes.
simply, I mean, you need to be aware, because depending on the
Yes.
environment, there may be a
Yes.
perception that is harming you if that's where you want to
Yes.
stay. But don't take
Yes.
somebody else's perspective, somebody else's
Mhm.
perception, and own that. Use it
Right.
as information, change what you want to, discard what you don't, and keep it moving.
Right. And also check the source of the data. So if you know
Yes,
that this person who's giving you feedback is mediocre at best and
at
you are
best.
excelling, why are you listening to this person? They could barely do their own
Yes.
job. So don't, no, 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 no. The other
No.
thing too, when you talked about, recognize what's happening, I think
Mhm.
it's really important to also recognize projected incompetence. So a lot of these
Yes.
people in leadership positions get in these positions not because of
Right.
their talent, not because
Right.
of their brilliance, because of who they know. And so when
Yes.
they're in these situations, they can see somebody like you, Laurel, and they're like, oh, she's smart. Oh, shoot, right? I got to watch out. They become so insecure that they start
Yes.
projecting their own incompetence onto you. And so
Mhm.
when you talk about that icky feeling, like we like, that doesn't feel
Yeah.
right, we have to pay attention to that.
Yes.
We have to, because that's
Yes.
a sign that I think a lot of us miss, right? So, Laura, you
Yes.
talked about, when you got to the point where you decided, this is not the place for me. This is not what I worked so hard for. I think a lot of Black women, we are at the same point because we are the most educated, like in the nation, right? So when we get to this point, we're like, wait a minute, is this what I worked so hard for? No, it's
Right.
not. But I think we go through this process, right? So even if we are experiencing fear, I know I
Mhm.
experienced the fear of leaving. It got to that point, Laurel, and I think it got the point to you too. It got to the point where it was so ridiculous that
Mhm.
I was at peace when I put
Yes.
in that resignation, immediate resignation by email. I was
Yep.
at peace. And girl, I did a video. Beyonce, you can't break my soul. I felt like I was reclaiming my power back.
Yes.
So again, the fear might be there,
Yeah.
but when you free yourself that chokehold that the job
Yes.
has on you, that is so liberating. So if you
Mhm.
have the fear, don't feel like, oh my God, I have the fear. That means I got to
Right.
stay. No,
Right.
just what Laurel said. Be pause, be self-aware, plan and execute your plan. So Laurel,
Yeah.
what would you say? I know we're winding down soon.
Yeah.
What would you say? Well, actually, before we go to that, Can you share a little bit about your healing process? What did that look like? Because again, I want Black women to know that we're not alone in these toxic work
Hmm.
environments, but I also
Hmm.
want us to know that healing is possible because I talk about
Yeah.
it all the time. I want them to see by my example, but I also want them to see through my guests. So, what
Yeah.
was your healing process? And let me say, I'm still healing. So, I resigned a year ago. I'm still healing. So, Laura, what has been your healing process in addition to therapy, which I strongly support as well.
Yeah. It's very interesting. It is a long process. This is year 6 for me, and I would say I'm still healing. There are
Hmm.
still times when I'll wake up and say, "I cannot believe that happened," or "I should have said that," or "I should have," I mean, and it's been 6
Yes,
years. It's been
yes,
6
I
years,
know.
right?
Yeah.
And so, therapy was a big piece of it and it continues to be a big piece of it.
Mhm.
Um, my I have an incredible village, right? My trainer is amazing. She is someone that I found through someone else. She gets it. She's had injuries before. She's all about movement. She has such a place of acceptance of where you are and where you're trying to go. My therapist is the same way. My physician is the same way, and all of them know each other. I'm like, y'all can talk to anybody, right? Because I want everybody to know, right? Because sometimes you just can't repeat the same story. And
Yes,
so it
yeah,
was about surrounding myself with people who um had a vested interest in my
yeah,
healing
yeah,
and my journey, and were
yeah.
and honored wherever I was in that space. And there's still days, there's still times when I'm like, I just can't do this because and here's the thing about healing.
Mhm,
If you're leaving that toxic job, if you're leaving
mhm,
that toxic job and you're going into entrepreneurship, do not think that that's all of a sudden then going to make it easier, because there
mhm,
is nothing like going out and being a solopreneur to bring all of that crap up that you didn't even know that was there. So I just want
mm,
you to be prepared that you're
mhm.
healing from a toxic environment on top of preparing and dealing with all that stuff to build something is a
Yeah,
lot of
yeah,
work.
yeah,
And
yeah.
so be prepared to give yourself some grace. Be
Mhm.
prepared to just go to bed sometimes. Be prepared to do nothing sometimes. I've learned a lot about the polyvagal theory that really resonates with me. Maybe it'll resonate with some of the guests, some of the people who are listening. Um, know that sometimes it's that whole idea of the fight, flight, freeze, faint, right? There are going to be times when you are just in that dorsal. All you can do is go to bed and cover up.
Yeah, yeah.
Just do
Yes,
that.
nap
Honor that.
ministry. Trisha Hersey. Yeah, take a nap.
Yes.
Take a
Just
nap.
do that.
Rest.
And
Yes.
honor that. Try not to allow yourself to have that turn into days, weeks, months, but
Right.
honor that sometimes you just can't do anything else, and you
Yeah.
just need a minute. And then
Yeah.
you get that frenetic energy, just that self-awareness to know when it's really frenetic. Through therapy for me, I can feel the churn, because I happen to be a person who is um I am multi-passionate, number one, but I also have I call it messy brain. I am hyper vigilant all the time. So I'm generally carrying on 2 or 3 conversations in my head at one time. So I'm like fully present
Mm-hmm.
with you, and
Uh-huh.
I'm having all these other conversations. It's just, and I literally thought I was nuts. And I was telling my therapist, I'm like, why don't, she's like, no, you're not nuts. There's some
Right.
people whose brains work like that. But
Yes.
here's the challenge with that is that because I know that, I can now discern when that energy is just like, it's so much that I can't handle, and
Yeah.
I've got things that I can recognize, and I
Mhm.
have ways to short circuit this churn, right? So there are times when I'm
Mm.
like, just stop. I literally put my hands up and say, Laurel, stop. And it's
Yeah.
that movement that
Yeah.
short circuit my brain activity, right?
Yes. Yes.
And
Yes.
can just let me refocus. So
Right.
finding your thing and being okay with whatever that is. I
Yeah.
have a clutter issue. I do. And I hate cluttered spaces, but I have a clutter issue. What I
Mm.
realize is that for me, clutter is an indicator. When my
Mm-hmm.
space is messy, that means my
Mm.
brain is really messy.
Yep.
And so it forces me to pause because I see it, right?
Yep.
It's a visual for me. So when I see
Yep.
that, I'm like, that's why things aren't going the way you want them to do. That's why you can't focus. I clean it up. I can breathe better when there's empty space, and I'm back on track. So
Yes.
find that healing is about honoring who you are, honoring
Yeah.
where you are in the moment,
Yeah.
keeping a vision for kind of, where you want to go. In Habakkuk, it's write the vision and make it plain, right? Know where you're wanting to go and give yourself some grace. Give
Yes.
yourself some grace, because you will put
Yes.
all kinds of stuff on yourself because you're not getting it because your hustle isn't as good as somebody else's hustle. And stop that. Stop that.
Yeah. 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 So first, slow down, pause, know yourself, pay
Mhm.
attention to the signs, know who's in your circle. Everybody
Yes.
in your circle should be there to support you, not people who's
Yes.
on the boat trying to make the boat sink. Okay, they need to be same page, right? Trying to support
Right.
your float, right? Because that's real.
Yes.
And seek support if you need it. So if that's
Yes.
therapy, a trainer, a coach, get the support. Okay, get the
Yes.
support if you need it, because we can't all do it by ourselves. So
Yeah.
Laura, what would you say to a Black woman who might be watching this right now?
Yeah.
Let's say she's dreading going to work tomorrow.
Hmm.
She's had similar experiences as you, or maybe me, or any of my other guests.
Yeah.
What would you say to her right now? What would you want her to know?
The first thing I'd want her to know is, sis, go to bed. Go to bed. A good friend of mine told me, you can't outwork the work. Go to bed.
Mm,
You
mm,
are phenomenal. You are exceptional at what you do. Whatever is going to come at you Monday, you will be able to handle it because your 100% is their 400%, right? We just do more.
yeah,
We just do
yeah,
more. And so
yeah.
they have to work their energy. If they're at a 400, that's just 100 for us, right?
Right.
So you got this. Just
Yes.
rest. Go to bed.
Yeah.
Do not do what I did. Don't not sleep on a Sunday night because there's nothing
Mm,
you can do this Sunday night that's going to change anything that's going to happen tomorrow. And
no.
you know enough and are smart enough and trust yourself enough to handle whatever's going to be there on Monday because you
Yeah.
know not to bring a knife to a gunfight. You know how to show up.
Ooh.
You're going to play
Ooh.
chess and not checkers. You're going to be just fine. Go to bed. Go to bed.
Yes. 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 And the part too, Laurel, about, because you mentioned this, that we know our worth, that we
Yes.
know what we're working with, we know our worth, and that we not seek external validation from
Yeah.
these toxic jobs, from
Yeah.
insecure, mediocre at best people at soul sucking jobs.
Yeah.
That it's not going to benefit you. And so if we
It's
know
not.
our worth, then we're able to say, you know what? This job is no longer serving me.
Yeah.
This job is
Yeah.
harming me. I need to pivot and leave. So, Laurel, as we're talking
Yeah.
about pivoting
Yes.
and leaving, can you share with the audience as we're winding down, what are you
Sure.
doing now and how people can
Sure.
contact you?
Absolutely. And I want to piggyback on just one thing you just said is
Mhm.
for those of you who are in jobs too, I talk about there's a reason I call my shows the Rutledge perspective, right? Because I believe if you shift your perspective, you can shift your circumstances. Put that job in the right place in your life. If your
Mm,
goal is to be a CEO, great. That honey, we need more that looks like us, right? That's wonderful. If your goal is to get out of there, fantastic. Put it in the right perspective and recognize that any conversation you're having is about value because no one can pay you what you're worth because you are priceless because you exist.
oh,
So stop
yes,
having a worthiness conversation. Have a value conversation because see that's business. You are paying me for the value I'm bringing to your organization and if you don't pay me, I know what my value is on the market and I'm
yes,
going to go get my value, right? It's a
yes.
value conversation. So I
Oh, I
just
love
wanted to
that.
piggyback on that because it's so important that we don't tie our worthiness into that job
Yes,
because you are priceless
exactly.
because you're here, sis. You're
We
priceless
are
because
the
you're here.
gift. We are the gift and we are the talent.
We
So the
are.
job does not make us, we make the job.
We
And
make
my
it.
hope is, Laura, I have said this and I'm so about it. I am ushering in a movement. I'm gonna proudly say this. I'm ushering in a movement for Black women leaving and healing from toxic jobs.
Yes.
And if these employers do not treat us right, we are going to
Go.
leave and find something better. And then who
Yes.
are you going to find to do the work? So employers, you're on notice too. Okay, I just want to just put that out there.
Absolutely. Because here's the thing. That's all about perspective. That is not the only job. It's
No,
not.
it's not.
That's not the only
No, it's not.
company. Don't get caught up in the titles and the but I really want to be at a Fortune 500. Do you? Because see, that's what this brings. Or do you want to be at that one?
Mm-hmm.
Don't get caught up in the hype. Don't
Mm-hmm.
believe the
Mm-hmm.
hype, right? The old
Yeah.
song, right? Don't
Oh,
believe the
don't believe
hype.
the hype. Don't
Don't believe the
believe
hype.
it. No.
Be mindful, keep your eyes open. Is it working for you? Because they're
Mm.
getting what they want out of you. Is it working
Yes,
for
they
you?
are.
It is a relationship, right?
Yes,
It's a
yes,
relationship.
yes,
It
yes.
should be working for
Would
both
you stay in a
people.
relationship that was beating you down? I hope you're not. Yeah,
If it's not working for you, there are so many other options. Don't let them make you believe that you don't have a choice, because we
for
always
real.
have a choice.
For
Always have a
real.
choice. So
For real.
what I'm doing now, and that was just so good that you said that,
Now
Dr.
that
Kamani. I was like,
that
we
was
got to
like
talk about
church right there. We were just
right.
vibing.
So what I'm doing now is, and again, 6 years in, y'all, you got to really give yourself some grace. I have come full circle to what I said I wanted to do when I first left corporate, and I am serving those women who are building their own businesses and who are moving from founder to CEO. And what I mean by that is, a founder is someone who has really taken her vision and she's created something amazing. But a CEO understands that she's got to let go of the day to day in order to lead. And that's hard, because that's connecting the business strategy with your people strategy. And we get so caught up when we first build. We love our people and we love the people, and we don't want it to be corporate. You
Mm-hmm.
want it to be corporate with a little c, right? You need to be sitting in the CEO seat. You need to be able to
Ah,
make tough decisions. You need to be able to hire the right people and let others go with love that are no longer serving
oh, I
your
like that.
organization, right?
Let them
So
go
I
with
help
love.
women step into that madness to the next level, right? Because I'm just taking your genius and helping you navigate that situation. That's it. That's what I'm
Mm,
doing. Because you've got the genius, you built a
mm,
business. What you don't have is my 30 years of enterprise risk management, of internal audit, of HR, of business processes, to be able to bring the whole picture together to connect your amazing business strategy with an incredible organization strategy that can get you where you want to be. So that's what I'm doing now. And probably the easiest way to get me, just catch me on LinkedIn. My radio show happens Tuesday morning, so would love for you guys to tune in Tuesday mornings at 10 a.m. Central, live on LinkedIn. So it streams on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. Just like Dr. Kamani in this show. And so catch me there, but LinkedIn is probably the easiest way to catch me. And I'm at Laurel-K-Rutledge on LinkedIn.
yeah. So as you see, Laurel is dope. Okay.
Yeah,
So if
thank
you are
you.
in a position where you want to go from founder to CEO, please seek her out. Now,
Oh,
Laurel,
yeah.
I do want to read the comments just
Yes,
briefly.
absolutely.
And I say also that I like to read the comments because I like to give Black women a voice, because many times we don't have a voice, or people ignore us
Right.
or misconstrue whatever. Okay, so people in the chat are saying it's great to have an advocate in the workplace. Yes, we become disembodied so often in these jobs. Yes. Hello, Dr. Kamani. Hello, Ms. Rutledge. Hello.
Hi.
Um, that is so true. That happened to me. I was physically losing my voice. Ooh, woo,
Mm-mm.
losing our voice, right? So something that I know that many Black women experience is that when we're in the workplace, several things. One is that we're masking. We're masking
Yes.
out from the minute we get out the car or log onto Zoom, we're masking. So we're not showing our
Yes.
true selves. And many times you can't even fully breathe, right? So you
Right.
can't fully breathe. You're like holding your breath all day. And then you might literally lose your voice because you are so conscious of how people might perceive you, with the
Hmm.
tone policing and all these other things, that you might kind of lose your space or lose your sense of
Yeah.
identity and confidence about
Yeah.
your voice. So yes, so true. Let me see. Immediate relief from submitting that resignation letter. When I tell you, when I heard the voice of God, and when I was in the shower, when I heard the voice of God say to me, if you go back to that job, it's a death sentence, I got out of that shower immediately, went right to that computer and put that resignation letter. I was like,
Yeah.
no, we're not doing this.
Done.
That is so important. We are often entering into entrepreneurship very hurt from toxic environments. Yes. So the importance of us healing. And as you heard
Yes.
Laurel and I say, healing is an ongoing process. Okay.
Yes.
No one tells Black women about the skeletons in the closet and the other pitfalls in the workplace. These things, no, they are wrong. Yes.
Mhm.
So that's the thing too, Laurel, is what I have learned, not only from my own experience, but talking to other Black women, is that you may not know how people are connected in the workplace. So you might think, oh, they did wrong. They're doing me wrong. I'm going to go report them. I'm going to go do this. I'm going to go do that. But little do you know, they plotting against you already, because there is some type of relationship with one another. And so, and I think what you said, Laurel, too, is that
Yeah.
when we start recognizing that, because we're good on picking up on signs, when you pick up on that, something not right, go with that, and
Yes.
stop trying to tell on people, because they're all in cahoots with one another. Do not believe the hype. That's a
Yeah.
word. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I put, oh, look at this, Laurel. I put my
Yay.
resignation letter in Friday, and then I thought I should have filed a grievance. I know it probably won't matter, but I went ahead and filed one with HR. It made me
Yes.
feel much better about it. I want to say congratulations, sis,
Yes.
congratulations. And the thing about the grievance and all this kind of stuff, and you talk about this too, Laurel, and I know I'll talk about it. On some level, even when I did my resignation letter, Laurel, I cited the workplace bully. I named
Yep.
her by name. I talked about a few things she did, but I got more documentation. But just a few things. I named other people,
Hmm.
but I had to let it go. You know what I mean? I was like,
Yep.
whatever's going to come to her, because karma is going to come
Yes.
around to all these people. So we
Hmm.
might feel like, I got to file a grievance. I got to do this, right? Do what you need to do, but
Yep.
no, karma is going to come back and get these
Yep.
people. You may never
Yes.
know what happens, but they're
Right.
going to come get them. Okay.
Yep.
Now,
Absolutely.
when I submitted my resignation letter, it felt like a boulder was lifted off of me. I also felt so empowered as well. Yes, it's
Yes.
woo, it's I'm priceless. Love that. Yes, we
Yeah.
are all priceless. We are all priceless.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
Laura, as we're ending, any last
Yeah.
words you want to share with the audience?
I would say this. Continue to stand in your power, speak truth to power.
Yes.
Yes, you have to know who you are, and you have to know where you are. And yes, there are things that, like you said, the tone police, right? There are things that are put upon us that aren't put upon others.
Yeah.
And it's not about selling out, right? That assimilation piece is, what do you do to get your message across as clearly as possible? And know that, right? Again, it's playing chess, not checkers. And
Mm.
sometimes silence speak louder than anything. Don't scream and yell, get real quiet. Get
Yep.
real quiet. And then
Yep.
what you say is heard much more loudly when you do that.
Yes.
So
Yes.
just know to don't hide your emotions, but manage them in a way that works for you. Use
Yeah.
them in a way that works for you. Like I said, I was standing up in front of a room. They were yelling and screaming at me. I finally yelled back and said, "Stop. We're not doing
Mm.
this." Right? The
Mm.
other time,
Mm.
I said nothing till the very
Mm.
end.
Yeah.
Know where you are. We sometimes forget how savvy we are because we're so caught up in the pain and the toxicity. And we're
Mm-hmm.
trying to see all the things that are moving. Just stop.
Yep.
Stop,
Yep.
pause, observe, and then be strategic in what you
Mm-hmm.
say, where you
Mm-hmm.
say it, and to whom you said it. Very rarely did I ever have to say, "I told you so," because see, we had that conversation.
Yes. 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 And you know what else too, Laurel? That I want people to remember as we're signing off. I want you to remember that we all have an inner Harriet. And Harriet
Yes.
operated in silence. And we are going to do that too. You do not need to let people at the job know what you're about to do and you're going to do this. No, pay attention to yourself, get the resources you need, and start exit planning so you can pivot and get out and find your way to freedom off plantations that are harming you. So
Yes.
operate in silence. Operate in silence. I
Yes.
love that. If that's your
Yes.
main takeaway. Operate in silence, pay attention to signs, pause, get the
Yeah.
support that you need. So
Yes.
everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. Please give this
Thank you.
video a thumbs up. It tells YouTube to suggest this video to other Black women who might be in similar situations. Also, my business is Lifting as We Climb Consulting. So as I am healing, I'm reaching out to as many Black women as I can, as many as I can, to help them leave and heal from toxic jobs. So have your hand open. I'm reaching for you, okay? And resources are available to you in the description section. So again, give this video a thumbs up. Also, if you have not already subscribed to my channel, please do so. Lifting as We Climb Consulting Wellness Services. And what Laurel brilliantly said, please get some rest. Rest.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So I'll see you next time. Take care. Bye
Bye,
bye.
everyone.